Greetings and welcome to What's New with Human Design, in which we follow the journey of the sun and the earth around the human design mandala. So I'm Maggie Ostara, and I want to welcome you here to What's New with Human Design. This is about approximately weekly, and it will now be weekly, update about what is happening with the energies of the sun and the earth, which change about every 5 to 6 days in human design. And so I want to just start out with a couple of announcements, and then we'll dive into today's update. I do want to let you know that the purpose of these updates is to give you insight to the energies that will be influencing you and everyone around you during this week, and how you can maximize the benefits, because there's always benefits, right? How you can maximize the benefits, but then how you can also learn to avoid the pitfalls, because all of the energies have both more awakened aspects, more shadow aspects, and more disempowered aspects. And so it's a question of what are you going to be more relating to, right? And so that's what I'm sharing with you every week. So the first announcement is that going forward, I'm going to be doing these on Wednesdays at noon Pacific time, and going live on Instagram and on Facebook like I am now, and that all of these will be archived on my YouTube channel. And they're already archived on my YouTube channel, the first 16 episodes, and then this one will go up there. You can just search for Maggie Ostara, and you'll find my channel, and please subscribe if you haven't already. That helps me to build the reach that I have with providing this valuable content to you. So that's the first announcement. The other is that in mid-May I will be opening up registration for my program Activate Your Superpowers. I haven't opened up registration for this since last summer. I do it like once or twice a year. And this program leads you step by step through the elements of the human design chart and teaches you how to apply them to your chart. And I do it all through the lens of your superpowers. And this is probably different than how you've learned human design elsewhere. I've heard over and over again from clients and from students that the way that I teach human design is both super practical, like you can apply it to your daily life immediately. It does take practice. And also empowering and affirming, because I fell in love with this system because it helped me to understand myself, helped me to fall in love with myself, and it's helped me to fall in love with the people in my life and with my clients and my students even more, as I've come to see, the things that they've learned and the challenges that they've had and how they've worked with them, and then how human design can illuminate that. So this is an introductory course, in the sense that it does go through all the fundamentals, but I have had people take it who've already done other trainings and have a certain, they already have some knowledge in human design. So it doesn't have to be like, if you're not a beginner, it can still be for you. And my purpose is to support you to use the system to really, really fall in love with yourself, and how to learn how to avoid pitfalls. I mean, I used to think that I had certain character flaws, honestly, until I came to human design and went, oh, it's because I'm identifying with the shadow aspect of that energy, or the disempowered aspect of that energy. And now I know how to flip it around into the more awakened aspect. And so that is a lot of what I teach in Activate Your Superpowers. And it's not open yet. Stay tuned for a webinar on May 18th. And I'll be posting additional content between now and then as well. And in the meantime, if this interests you, you can go to my YouTube channel. There's a whole series of videos about human design superpowers according to type. So you can go check that out. All right, and then I will be announcing these, and please do if you're interested, please make sure you're on my email list. You can go to sovereigntybydesign.com and sign up for the resource library, and then you get access to that as well, and then you'll get announcements from me. Okay, that's it for announcements. And so for today's update, so this is a really interesting dynamic, that is here between the Earth and the Sun right now. So I'm going to start out with where the Earth is. So the Earth today moves into the gate 44. Which is potentially a difficult energy, particularly if you're not aware of it. Okay, this is one of those pitfalls that you want to avoid if possible. So the gate 44 is on the Spleen Center, and all of the spleen gates, if you've listened to any of these others of mine, you'll have heard this before, but all the spleen gates are known as fear gates. Okay, the reason for that is that the spleen is the center for instinct. In traditional human design, it was known as the Center for Intuition, and in quantum human design, which was developed by Karen Curry Parker, she's renamed it as the Center for Instinct. And the idea here is that it can be intuitive, provided that we can release the fear that instinct can generate. Because instinct, its number one purpose is to keep us alive. Okay, instinct is here to keep us alive and to help us procreate, and then keep our children alive so that they can procreate. Okay, it's really basic, right? So that's kind of what runs through the spleen center. But when you're aware of it and you're aware of what the fear is, you can move through that, and then you can access intuition even more. So my experience is that a lot of people run this energy without even realizing it. It's subconscious, and it's often wired into our survival strategies. And that's because in order to, and this happens in a split second, like it's so fast, in order to understand situations in the present, our minds go back into the past and we go, well, what do we know about a situation like this, right? We go back into our memory and we go, oh, well, this traumatic thing happened back then. And so this thing is like that. And then if I, depending on what happens here, I'm going to project that fear of that re-experiencing that trauma out into my future. Okay, does that make sense? And it happens like not even like that. It's so fast, you can't even detect it. So what you want to be able to do is just start paying attention to how you're feeling, and what are you believing, really, right? Because the gate 44 can stimulate this process without you even realizing it, and you can just be kind of going, oh, no, I want to stay away from that because it doesn't feel right. Okay, but you want to tune in, because your true true intuition will not speak to you in fear. It may say, no, don't go that direction. Better not to get involved in that. If you're a generator, it might go, okay. Either pure generator, manifesting generator. Your sacral might just be like, and so you want to pay attention to that, but it's not going to drive you with fear. Okay, it's not going to drive you with fear, which is something that the instinct will do. Okay, so you want to be paying attention to that and have a conversation with yourself to be like, okay, what's my motivation here? What's my perspective underlying how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, what I'm doing? And because you can fall into the shadow state, where you're actually enrolling. This is actually a very influential energy. It's part of the channel of sales in traditional human design, and so it's an influential energy, and it can help enroll people in whatever it is that you're believing. And so you want to be aware that the shadow state of that is where you try to enroll other people in the fear that you have, that you projected out into the future. Okay, conspiracy theories do this a lot, right? It's like they look at this thing and then they project this thing out into the future. But it can happen really with anything. So that's the shadow state. The disempowered state is where you become so paralyzed by your fear that of the past you're projecting into the future, that you just feel like you can't move forward, because you're just kind of But when you're in the awakened state, you're aware of the challenges and the wounds that you had in the past. You embrace what you learned from them, right? You're really looking for, okay, yeah, this really sucked. And what did I learn from that? Like, what, okay. So, because there's always, people always say there's a gift. I mean, gift is a strong word. I like to say there's always a learning. There's always something that you get out of it. So what's the learning? And then from there, you create a positive vision of the future based on your more healed and your more evolved self, right? Because your evolved self, your more healed self, isn't going to be operating out of fear. that way. Okay, so and the thing about the fear of the spleen is that you can move through these fears. It's not like they've, you know, got you really in a straitjacket where you can't do anything. Okay, does that make sense? So you can move through it. Now, the good news is that the sun in the gate 24 can help you do this exactly. And I love the gate 24. So the gate 24 is right here on the ajna, and it's the mate of the 61. It's the beginning of the knowing circuit, which is the most intuitive circuit in the chart. And the 24 receives the inspirations and the insights that are in the downloads that are coming in through the 61, which is in the head, right into the ajna center. Now, the ajna in human design, this is different than the ajna in the chakra system, so just be aware of that. It has a tendency towards analysis. It's a center for data collection, so it's data analysis, data using data to understand the world, okay, and linear thinking. It tends to be kind of left-brained, and so when the energy of gate 24 is awake and alive and moving in the direction of what's possible, it's really a huge gift of the knowing circuit, because it's receiving those insights, right? And then it's kind of bringing it down in and going, okay, how am I going to start to utilize that into my life? Because it can be more abstract, right? What comes in through the 61 can be a bit more abstract. So it's kind of bringing it in and starting to think about, well, what's the structure of this, right? What's the form that this is going to take? In traditional human design, the 24 is known as rationalization. Now, I think of that as the shadow of the 24, rationalization, because rationalization is kind of like, oh yeah, I got this intuition, but you know, whatever. Like, it's not, I'm not going to believe it because I don't have any data, for example, about it. I don't have any data. There's no scientific studies that show that that's true. So I'm going to dismiss it. That is the shadow of the 24, okay? The disempowered aspect of the 24 is just not believing that there can be any blessings. So in quantum human design, the 24 is known as the gate of blessings, because it's like receiving this incredible you know, insights, inspiration, positivity, new ideas, new ways of being in the world, new ways of perceiving how life can exist, that comes in through that 61, which is really one of our primary connections to super consciousness, right? And I really believe that our connection to super consciousness is what's going to get us out of the mess that we're in right now here on planet Earth. It's not going to come from our rational minds. It's not going to come from our logical linear thinking. That part will need to have a role, but it's not going to come from there. It's going to come from our ability to receive from a much higher intelligence, right? Much greater, bigger perspective. And so we want the gifts and the blessings of the 24. We don't want to get stuck in rationalization and to be kicking things out because it doesn't fit with what we've known in the past, right? So when you refuse to be in control, to be controlled by the fear of the past, okay, when you just say, I'm not going to be controlled by my wounds, by my traumas, by the things that have, you know, how I've gotten screwed over, or how I was a victim before, or even how I was a perpetrator and did evil things to people, because, you know, we've all got to do that at some point, right? Like, and instead embrace the learning, right, that you got from that. Like, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to allow this situation to happen in my life. I'm never going to, you know, get in relationship with a person who's like that, you know, whatever. I'm never going to take a job where I'm treated this way. Like, take the learning and then use that to move forward, to create something that is more in alignment with what you know is going to fulfill your needs, and it's going to help you be the most expressed, creative, empowered person that you can be. So you do that by really, you know, refusing to be controlled by the past, because when you know, if you do allow the fears of the past, you know, you can you know, fall into paranoia, frankly. I mean, that's what paranoia is where people take things that have happened in the past and then they're just live in this state of fear. Okay, so You don't want to have that happen, right? That'll just inhibit your ability to trust the inspirations and the insights that are coming in through the 24, right? So you want to be able to open up to receive that. And what will happen is that instinctual fear can drop away, and then the 44 can become more intuitive as well. And then that enrolling quality of the 44 and that intuitive quality of the 24 can come together, and they're incredible superpowers for you. And they can be your superpowers, or they can be your nemesis, depending on what you align with them. It's really your choice. So last piece here is, remember, these energies are going to be influencing everyone around you, as well as you too. It'll influence them differently depending on if they have these gates defined in their chart or not. I did talk about that in the intro to this whole series, which you can find on my YouTube channel if you want to go and find out more about that. Get the kind of the basis for how I'm talking about this. But basically, people are going to be influenced by this, right? And so be attuned to other people either acting out of their fear of the past or over rationalizing and dismissing what intuition is bringing forward, right? If somebody like just, you say, wow, I got this intuitive hit and I'm really excited about this thing, and somebody goes, that's a bunch of bunk, you know, there's any evidence for that. Just realize they're probably being influenced by the shadow part of the 24, and you don't have to take that in, and to realize it's not personal, right? Like, we can be influenced by these energies and it's not personal. Like, it's not about somebody wanting to say to you, I don't believe you. It can totally feel that way, and it can come across that way, but you know, forewarned is forearmed, right? You can be like, wow, that person, you can even just be thinking in your head, that person's really like in the shadow of the 24 right now. Right? And that you can honor your intuition, and you can honor your you know, your awareness of the bigger picture, and the wisdom that is coming to you, and the wisdom that does come from your spleen when you've released the fear, and and understanding these energies can help you to navigate your relationships, right, with much greater wisdom, and to avoid potential conflicts, so you don't get into it with somebody if they do that thing with the they start asserting their fear of the past as what's true and say this is what's going to happen, and so people can do this from ancestry, if they've got imprints from, let's just say, living in a dictatorial society in the past, in their ancestral tradition, which all of us do, and then they start having that fear getting activated, and then they project it out into the future, and they say, Joe Biden's going to become a dictator, right? And you're like, what? So just pay attention if you hear that kind of thing and that kind of thing happening, and if it feels right, and you really always have to see, because people may not want to hear your insight about it, but if there's somebody close to you, you might want to say, hey, have you ever heard of human design? Have you ever, considered that this might be influencing you? I learned about this, and I don't want us to be going down the wrong path, either myself or you or us together. So that's one of the ways that you can have human design be really practical, and you can start utilizing it in your life right now. Okay, so that is my update for today. Thank you for being here. Thanks so much for being here with me today for What's New with Human Design. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And if you would like to book a reading with me, you can find out more about me and my work at sovereigntybydesign.com. Many blessings, much love. Bye for now.